Hi everyone, how are you today? I hope you all always happy and always in a good health. So today in this video, I wanted to explain about my material, the concept of Pancasila education, as my final project and my final test. But before that, I wanted to introduce myself first. My name is Dofi Harma Yani. You can call me Dofi. I'm from
But
class
before
11
I
in
start
Pasar,
to explain my
majoring English Language
material,
Education
let me
Department for the
introduce my
second
lecturer
semester.
first. So she's my lecturer, Dr. Silonyo Mansriadi, SPD MPD, as the lecturer of the subject Philosophy Education. And here are the contents of the material of the concept of Pancasila education that I would like to explain to you. There are 4 contents. The first one is the definition of Pancasila education. The second one is the foundational or basis of Pancasila education. The third one is principles of Pancasila education. And the last one is the goals of Pancasila education. So the first material is the definition of Pancasila education. And I would like to explain about the definition of education first. Based on the Law Number 20/2003 about the system of educational in Indonesia. Education is a conscious and plain effort to create a learning atmosphere and learning process so that students actively develop their potential to have a religious spiritual strength, self-control, personality, intelligence, noble character, and skills needed by themselves, society, nation, and state. And the definition about Pancasila. Pancasila is the basis of Indonesian state, which is used as a guideline for the people of Indonesia. Then, every law in Indonesia and its education is based on precepts Pancasila. And Pancasila is the highest law in Indonesia, and we called it the law of all laws. So, Pancasila education is a way to instill a moral and broad-minded personality in the life of the nation and state. Therefore, education about Pancasila needs to be given at every level of education, from elementary, secondary, to tertiary levels. And this is the additional from Maman Rahman, that he said, education about Pancasila plays an important role in shaping the personality of students in higher education. After graduating from college, it is hoped that they will not only develop their intellectual power, but also their attitude and behavior. Their attitude and behavior are expected to be the basis of his knowledge, so that it is useful for their self, their family, and society. And we move to the second material, is a foundation of Pancasila education. There are 4 foundations of Pancasila education. The first one is historical foundation. So, the Indonesians were formed through a long process from the royal era, Kutai, Sriwijaya, Majapahit until the arrival of invaders. The Indonesians struggled to find their identity as an independent nation and have a principle that is noted in the outlook of life and the philosophy of life, in which is noted with a character trait of a nation that is different from other nation. By the founders of our nation, the founding father, it was formulated simply but deeply, which include 5 principles and was named Pancasila. And the second foundation is cultural foundation. The Indonesian people base their life views on society, pray, and state on cultural principle that is owned and attached to the nation itself. The state and social values contained in Pancasila precepts are not the result of one's conceptualism, but rather are the work of the Indonesian people themselves who are lived from the cultural values held through the philosophical reflection process of the country's founders. The third foundation is juridical foundation. The foundation of Pancasila education, in particular the Pancasila education lectures in higher education, is legally regulated in Law Number 2 of 1989 concerning the national education system. Article 39 state, the contents of the curriculum of each type, pathway, and education must contain Pancasila education, religious education, and citizenship education. The Pancasila MPK course science consists of historical, philosophical, statehood, country faith and country life, and political ethics. Such development in the hope that students are able to take a stand according to their conscience, recognize the problems of life, especially people's life, recognize change, and be able to color historical events, cultural values for the unity of the nation. The last foundation is philosophical foundation. Philosophically, the Indonesian people, before establishing the state, were a nation of God and humanity. This was based on the objective reality that humans were creators of God Almighty. Every aspect of state organization must be sourced from Pancasila values, including the statutory system in Indonesia. Therefore, in the realization of statehood included in the reform process today, it is a necessity that Pancasila is a source of value in the implementation of statehood, both in the national development, economic, political, legal, socio-cultural, and security defense. And we move to the next material is the principles of Pancasila education. There are three principles of Pancasila education. The first one is Pancasila as a social studies. These have identified three social studies are the first one, social studies as citizenship transmission. The second one is social studies taught as social science. And the third one, social studies taught as reflective inquiry. And these three traditions have different meanings and purpose. The second principle is Pancasila as the main principle in learning Pancasila education. Pancasila education carries the concept of transferring Pancasila values into the scientific structure to be given to students. Therefore, three important things to keep in mind. Number one is Pancasila must be seen as the philosophy of a living nation. The precepts are a reflection of dynamic and open view of life and ideals in accordance with the times. Number two, Pancasila should be placed as part of civic education in a wider and general context. Number three, Pancasila is based on moral education or character education. Thus, the learning process of Pancasila as part of democratic citizenship education no longer emphasizes on memorizing regulation, laws, and state administrative procedures, as well as political process that are only textual based. The last principle is Pancasila as the basis principles of citizenship education learning. According to the Budimansyah, the learning principles are: number one, the principles of active student learning. This model adheres to the principle of active student learning. In the planning phase, students' actives are seen when identifying problems using brainstorming techniques. Number two, cooperative learning groups participatory learning. The collaboration in question is cooperation between students and between other components in the school, including cooperation between the school and parents and related institutions. Cooperation between students is clearly seen when the class has chosen a problem for joint study. Number three, reactive teaching. The principle of reactive teaching is to emphasize how teachers create strategies so that students have learning motivation. Therefore, the teacher must understanding the condition of the students so that the learning material is interesting and not boring. Let's move to the last material. It's the goals of Pancasila education. There are 5 goals of Pancasila education. Number one is have faith and pity to God Almighty. Number two is having a fair and civilized human attitude towards others by always having a high tolerance in the midst of a pluralistic nation. Number three, creating national unity by not acting anarchically, which can be the cause of the disappearance of Bhinneka Tunggal Ika in the midst of a society that has cultural diversity. Number four, creating a populist attitude that puts the public interest first and prioritize deliberation to reach a state of consensus. Number five, the last one, providing support as a way to create conditions of a social justice in society.
So guys, that's all about my explanation of the concept of Pancasila education. I hope you can understand what I said before on this video. I'm so sorry if I have a mistake on my pronunciation or my grammar because I'm still learning English. And Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you always happy and always in a good health. Thank you. Goodbye.